Hello and welcome into the KLSU Untitled TV Tailgate Show. I'm your host, local water boy Nick Halaby. Alongside me today, as always, is Courtney Brewer of Tiger TV. How you doing, Courtney?
Good. I'm doing pretty well. I went home to Kentucky this weekend, so I'm on cloud nine.
We bet you are. And Sean Larken of KLSU Sports. How you doing, Sean?
Pretty good, pretty good.
So we have a lot to get into today. Of course, the big matchup tomorrow, the Magnolia Bowl, LSU versus the Landshark, Rebel, Bear, Ole Miss fighting whatever they are.
I don't know.
But before we get to that, we sadly have to start and address the news that broke earlier this morning. LSU junior, 20-year-old junior basketball player Wade Sims tragically passed away this morning at the age of 20. There's not a lot you can say, I guess, with an occurrence like this. Somebody taken obviously much too soon. Wade Sims was not only a basketball player, but somebody who was from Baton Rouge, born and raised. His father was on the basketball team. Wade was a product of University High, literally on this campus. So I think on behalf of KLSU and all of student media, we just want to send our condolences to LSU basketball, the LSU athletic family, and most importantly to the Sims family, who I can't even imagine what they're going through right now. Do y'all have anything to add, I guess?
Yeah, man, you know, this is supposed to be a day, you know, we're getting excited for the home opener in SEC, but when something like this happens, you know, this is why I think a lot of us get into sports, because you don't see stories like this. You don't have to cover stories like this. You want to cover the fun stories and the feel-good. But, man, something like this happens, it's just, you know, I listened to the press conference today, and you just heard about how much he's grown as a kid,
yeah,
as a leader on the team. You know, he loved LSU, he loved the state. You know, like I said, he went to U High, won 3 straight state championships. He was Gatorade Player of the Year. I mean, it's been a tough day, man. You know, this is not how you want to go into the weekend with all the excitement around the football game, and the basketball program. You know, there's a lot of excitement around them. And something like this happened, it's horrible, man. I hate it. And, you know, thoughts and prayers to his family and the LSU basketball team and the whole campus, really.
Yeah, in the press conference today, Will Wade, along with Joe Leva, said that they're probably not going to be thinking about basketball for a little bit. And just, I guess, to all who knew him, to anybody who Wade Sims had an impact on their life, just our condolences and our thoughts, because it just sucks. That was a bad news notification to wake up to. So, but let's get into what we're here for, and that is analysis and hype and hope for LSU football in what will be the 107th Magnolia Bowl tomorrow in Death Valley against the Ole Miss Rebels. We could talk a little bit about last week, but honestly, there's not a lot to get into. LSU played in a non-conference game. I'm of the opinion that those are the games that we should never, ever play again, because nothing good can ever come of them, whether it be Troy last year, Eastern Michigan the year before, or La Tech
Southeastern earlier. I mean,
yeah,
you're in a no-win situation. I mean, they go up 24-0.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, you know, this is exactly what I didn't think would happen. You know, you get up, and then again, they've hit this. We've seen it now through 4 games. They've hit this second, third quarter where they just don't bring the same focus and execution. And there were 8 minutes left in this game, and it was 24-21, and I was not sure what was going to happen.
Oh yeah, I was shaking in my boots a little bit. I was in Commonwealth Stadium, like on my phone, like what's going on, and seeing that score so late into the game had me a little worried.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I don't know how, but magically the clocks went out.
Yeah,
and you know, that's just another factor that Louisiana Tech had to focus on, other than just executing their game plan. So maybe that had a little something to do, because the momentum changed after that. They ended up running away 38-21. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot. Defensive backs didn't play well. We ran the ball well. I believe you've seen the two-headed monster now emerge with Nick Rosette and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They both had a great game. Joe Burrow still just, you know, kind of, the offense was different game plan-wise as it was against Auburn. So, yeah, I mean, I think the only positive we can take out of this is the last one of those until November when we play Rice. So, yeah.
Courtney, There's a lot of good things that come out of this first portion of the season.
Absolutely.
In terms of the Tigers' perception, whether it be the offense, which is a lot more diverse than we thought, or the defense, who's been dominating. But a worrying trend over the Tigers' first 4 games has been their drop-off when they get to the third quarter.
Yeah.
Against Miami in that second half scored a lot of points. Auburn is in the same sense. Really, it started in the second quarter, but through most of the third quarter, ran that football game. Even against Southeastern, and like we said, against La Tech,
Yes.
they rallied.
Southeastern had the ball the majority of the third quarter. I think he ran 11 plays, I think, in the second half, or some ridiculous stat like that.
Is this something we should be worried about heading into a game like this?
I think it is. If you look at, so we've got 4 SEC games in a row coming up. 3 of those being major games. And I'm concerned that going into these big SEC opponents, that's what's going to hit us. I mean, we played Auburn, and that was great, but we've got these big names at home. I mean, we have Georgia and Alabama at home this year. And so I really think in these next 2 weeks, before we get Georgia and these big home games, that's going to have to be something we improve on.
Sean, let's talk a little bit about these Ole Miss Landshark Rebel Bears. They have one of the most explosive offenses, if not in the SEC, in the country, and it's so weird because they can put up a lot of points, but at the same time, you let, was it Southern Illinois?
Yeah.
Score 41 in Oxford?
Yeah, and just bear with me here, y'all, because these are some gaudy numbers. And so their offense is score. They put up 47 versus Texas Tech. They put up 76 versus Southern Illinois, but like I said, they gave up 41. We'll get to that in a second because that's where it isn't good. They scored 38 last week against Kent State, the Golden Flashes. So last year, Jordan Tiamu took over for Shea Patterson after the 7th game, and he played well. 5 starts, it's over 66% completion percentage, 11 touchdowns. They were 3-2 in his 5 starts. They won just as many as they did with Shea Patterson. They actually averaged 5 more points per game with Tiamu in there. So far this season, he's completing 64% of his passes. He's the SEC leader in passing yards with over 1,300. He's got 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Last week threw for 400, 2 touchdowns. They had a rushing touchdown as well. So offensively, they're going to be loaded. The offensive line is really strong. I think that's going to be a challenge for LSU. They returned 5 players who played at least 8 games last year. The only loss was the starting right tackle. The left tackle, Greg Little, he's a former 5-star. He's a senior. He's a projected first-round pick in the 2019 draft. Running back, they had to replace a 1,000-yard rusher from last season, and Scotty Phillips, the JUCO transfer, he sort of answered the call. He's second in the SEC in rushing behind Mr. Benny Snell, Jr. at Kentucky. Phillips has 467 yards rushing. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's also caught a touchdown. So he's kind of the guy so far that they've ran to. And this is the group. This will be the funnest matchup of the week for LSU fans and just college football fans in general. So the wide receiver group, I don't know if you've seen it last year, they had this big wrestling belt, and it said NWO, and it stood for Nasty Wideouts, and they're absolutely that. So you're looking at the NWO versus DBU this weekend. They're probably the best group in the SEC. They only lost Van Jefferson. He transferred to Florida after the sanctions last year, but they returned 3 guys that probably will be in the NFL, and they're the SEC leaders in receiving yards per game. A.J. Brown he was a leader last year, 75 catches, a score record 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. He's a projected top 10 pick in next year's draft. That's the guy that they're going to get the ball to. He's got 26 catches and 3 touchdowns already. DK Metcalf is a sophomore. This guy is massive. He's 6'4", 225. Last year he had 7 touchdowns, over 600 yards. This year he's already got 4. He's leading the team. Last week he had 5 catches for 102 yards. So A.J. Brown 6'1", he's 6'4", and then the senior DeMarcus Lodge, the most experienced receiver on the roster, he's 6'2". He had 41 catches last year, over almost 700 yards, 7 touchdowns, and so far this season he's got 13 for 184. Oh, and then there's a sophomore that's started, kind of get some catches as well, Braylon Sanders. He's got 8 catches, so almost 200 yards, and a touchdown so far this season. So, yeah, that's going to be the matchup of tomorrow night, Nasty Wideouts versus DBU. I'm pretty excited about it. A.J. Brown is nasty.
We know how great this offense is, Courtney.
Yeah.
But this defense, they struggle a lot. Again, 40. I cannot stop talking about it. 41 points at home.
It was 38-31 Southern Illinois at halftime.
Hey, go Salukis.
41 points at home against Southern Illinois. it's a bad defense. And traditionally, LSU would just run through. You want to keep that explosive Ole Miss offense off the field, so you're going to run the ball, try to chew up as much clock as possible, and just run through a really thin Ole Miss defense. Kind of the same story this year, but LSU has some wrinkles. You have Joe Burrow. What do you expect to see? What strategy, if you were Steven Sminger, what strategy would you attack this defense with?
This would definitely be something. I mean, you've seen our offense improve so much this season. I think I said it on last week's show, like, LSU's known for defense, and with Steve Essinger and Joe Burrow stepping up and filling this big leadership position, you've seen really, really strong offense these past 4 games, and I think we just have to keep building on that.
Yeah, that makes a lot. I mean, when you look at how you attack this Ole Miss team, it's hard. The Magnolia Bowl's been a pretty competitive game over the last 4 years. Ole Miss winning 3 years ago in Oxford. But LSU's won the game really in the third and fourth quarter. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with what we were worried about, is if this team can run the ball early, if they can rack up a lot of points, I don't see how this game doesn't become like Miami or like even, not really Auburn, but like the other games where LSU gets a big lead early and then they just try to run the clock out.
I mean, it should be that. I mean, this defense, look, I have in my notes, all caps, exclamation, really bad. Okay? They're last, they're last in SEC in rush defense. They give up 190 yards per game. That's 99th overall in the country. They're last in SEC pass defense. 314 yards per game, 122nd overall in the country. Look, the game a few years ago, it's probably been like 4 years ago now, we won here 10-7. That was a much better Ole Miss defense. You know, that was the birth of the land shark, whatever. We ran it. I think Kenny Hillary ran the ball in the third and fourth quarter like 25 times in a row. They just couldn't stop it. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It's basically, what LSU wants to do on offense, they can pick their poison. Whatever they want to do, they should have success. If they want to run the ball, they should be able to run the ball because Ole Miss is giving up almost 200 yards per game. If they want to throw it, which we still haven't seen, you know, we just haven't aired it out. Like the Auburn game, we did throw, you know, we threw the ball a lot, but we haven't just seen this air raid 300 yards. But if we want to do that, Ole Miss will let us do that as well. Honestly, this is a game you literally have to get out in front early because you do not want to be in a shootout, especially with this talented wide receiver core. And the quarterback, Tiamu, he's not afraid to just throw it up and let those guys go make plays. And, man, it's going to be electric. And I think if LSU can get on them early, get the crowd in it, and they won't let up. Defensively, they won't let up. And, you know, they could run away with this, but do not get in a shootout with this team because, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen because they can score.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to come down to continuing to see that growth from Burrow. This will be his 5th game and his first – it's everyone's first, but it's going to be his first SEC home game.
Yep.
And we've already seen him grow so much. And this is his first year as an SEC quarterback. And so I think if we see him continue to grow, starting from this game and through the rest of the season, we will see that offense continue to grow with him.
Yeah, like you said, 4 straight SEC games coming up. Only time to get better. You know, you can get better now.
This is an Ole Miss team that's not going to a bowl game this year because of sanctions related to their former coach. And this is a team that doesn't necessarily, you'd think, have a lot to play for, especially after losing to Alabama the way they did a couple weeks ago. That being said, I think that makes them really dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
A game like this, we know how big a rivalry the Magnolia Bowl is. It's that much bigger for Ole Miss than it is LSU. LSU has Florida. LSU has Alabama. LSU over the last, I'd say, 15 to 20 years has kind of dominated this rivalry a little bit.
Yep.
This is Ole Miss's season right here this week, and I think that makes these Rebel Landshark Bears that much more dangerous to come up against, especially how they have all those weapons. We'll start getting into LSU now and what they have to do to win this football game. Offensively, Alabama just early on slinged this team. They got punched in the face early by Ole Miss's offense, and Bama punched right back. After that, they could start running into submission. But at the beginning of the game, especially with the way Tua has been playing, Alabama was able to just sling it past them. Do you expect kind of the same out of Joe Burrow?
I hope, honestly, I hope that because our wide receivers have shown this year, we heard about them all, camp, that this was probably the best wide receiver group they've had in a while, and that's, saying a lot when you've had Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. And they've proved it. I mean, they've played well. Justin Jefferson's played well. Jamar Chase has played well. Sullivan's played well. But, man, Alabama, they had their way. I think 2 through 4 incomplete passes. He was done after the third quarter. They threw for 306 yards. I think they ran for 200. So, I mean, they had their way with them. Southern Illinois had their way with them. What we've got to do is just sustain drives. Don't turn the ball over. I think we had the fumble last week. But, just continue to play. Don't play conservative, but just play smart, control the ball. You can take shots against this defense. But it's just about sustaining drives and, don't do anything crazy just to, because like you said, this is their season. You don't want to give a team that has really nothing to play for. You don't want to give them a turnover or a missed field goal or, something like a missed trick play to get their momentum going and just to give them a chance. You want to put them away early. So it's about just sustaining drives. Don't turn the ball over. And just play LSU football. We talk about just LSU football has basically kind of been run the ball, and just hit your spots. Just play LSU football, and we should be able to win this game.
Yeah, I think it's really going to come down to how much we can carry the ball and how much we can run the ball and keep this Ole Miss team from getting their hands on it. Because, we keep saying this is kind of Ole Miss's season. It's their second year with this new coach, and so I think it's really going to come down to us. You said it best. We got to play LSU football.
LSU, DBU, the DBs have been good this year. Grant Delpit's having himself a good year. Greedy Williams, nobody wants to throw to him.
Nope.
But if you look at their stats, especially last week, they have been bending a little bit. People have been able to convert through the air against this defense. How much better does the secondary have to play this week, real quick?
Oh, man, they've got to play better. A lot of those were 50-50 balls. Smith was just throwing the ball up, and his guys were coming down. Adrian Hardy had 180 yards receiving last week, 2 touchdowns. That can't happen, especially against A.J. Brown, who is projected top 10 pick, DeMarcus Lodge, and DK Metcalf. This is, as a group, is a lot better than Louisiana Tech's group. But Hardy lit them up last week. Some of the balls, some of it was technique issues, which we'll talk about later, but they've got to play better. They have to play better. If they can make Ole Miss one-dimensional, they'll have a good chance to win this game.
Big game tomorrow. We're going to talk about who we think is going to be the breakout player for these Tigers. Courtney, I'm going to start with you.
Honestly, I'm on the Joe Burrow train. He is just on this incline and has been on this incline since day one at Miami. We've seen him grow so much in his first year as an SEC quarterback. And you look at Georgia, they almost won the Natty last year with a freshman quarterback. And so I'm still riding high on Joe Burrow. I think he makes or breaks this game for us.
Sean, how about you?
Yeah, so I think I've gone offense every week. And I'm going to go Christian Fulton because I don't think they're going to throw the ball to Greedy Williams' side as much, but that will be a great matchup to watch. He's probably going to be on A.J. Brown the whole game. Fulton hasn't had a bad season, but you can see he's still knocking the rust off. He didn't play last year, but there's some technique issues, turning around, not finding the ball. But that's going to happen. I think I heard Ryan Clark say on a radio show the other day, if they're throwing the ball at you, there's a lot of, so many times, there's a lot of things that are going to happen. You're not going to be like Greedy and they're going to just stop. You're going to get more attempts, so you're going to have more times to either succeed or give up a touchdown or a penalty. So I'm looking for Christian Fulton to step up and have a big game this week.
I'm going to counter you a little bit with my pick. My pick's going to be Greedy Williams. The reason being, especially if he's on A.J. Brown. This Ole Miss offense has so many weapons, but if Fulton plays a good game and Delpit and the rest of the secondary, they're going to have to throw to Brown. Te'amu, he's a good quarterback, but he's a young quarterback, and he's comfortable with Brown. He's going to have to throw the ball up to him. And if that's the case, then Greedy's going to see some action. And Greedy's played great, couple of interceptions, shutting down his side of the field, but he hasn't seen a lot of action.
No, and he's going to see it, like you said. There's 3 receivers there. Somebody's going to have to make a play. So, there's 3 guys. It's basically pick your poison who you want to shut down because you're not shutting all 3 of them down. Somebody's going to have a big game. But, yeah, that Greedy Williams-A.J. Brown matchup's going to be awesome.
It's going to be huge, and Greedy's going to have to play his type of game to shore up this secondary.
Don't throw to him.
That's
He's
right.
warned you. Jordan Te'amu, you're warned. You've been warned.
We'll get to our picks for the Magnolia Bowl in a second, but let's start off, as we do every week, with the out-of-conference action. Some really good games this week. Let's start off over in Tejas, where West Virginia takes on the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Courtney, who you got in this match?
I'm going West Virginia. They've been riding high these last few weeks. They're number 12. I'm not sure what the line is on this game, but I really see them coming out. And, yeah.
Yeah,
Sean?
so this is an 11 a.m. game. I saw a stat the other day that said when they lost to Ole Miss, he didn't have a beard. So Cliff Kingsbury is now 3-0 with his beard. So I think they're going to win. This is random, but he's 4-0 with the beard. Probably the best-looking coach in college football. He's going 4-0 with the beard.
I think outside of Oklahoma, West Virginia is probably the best team in the Big 12. Will Greer's playing a heck of a season over there as quarterback. He's a Heisman hopeful. I think this West Virginia team, they can not only can they score, but their defense, like we saw in Week 1 against Tennessee, can be really, really good. And Texas Tech doesn't even know what defense means. So I'm going to go with West Virginia.
Spread's 3.5.
Yeah,
West Virginia.
It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a very close game. Stanford, Notre Dame, big matchup. Stanford stealing one up in Autzen, up in Eugene last week against the Ducks. They've had some big games. Both these teams have, well, actually just Stanford has had a big win against USC. This is a big game that can go a long way determining if a non-Power 5 team has a shot at making the college football playoff. Notre Dame riding high after the big win against Michigan. Who do you guys have in this matchup? Sean?
I'm going to go with Notre Dame. They're at home. Place is going to be rocking. I don't know how Stanford won that game last week. I think I did pick Stanford to win, so I was happy. But, I mean, I still don't understand how they did it. But, man, Notre Dame does have the win against Michigan. Not much else, but I got the Irish.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm going with the Irish. They are riding so high this season, and I've been a Notre Dame fan my whole life, and I really think they've got it.
I've also been a Notre Dame fan, but I am picking Stanford. I think Notre Dame has a lot of holes that they've been able to hide with a pretty mediocre schedule after Michigan, and I think Notre Dame's going to punch them in the mouth. They won't be able to respond. Look for Bryce Love to be closer to full health than he's been all season.
Yep, that's another thing.
And have a really, really big game. He's somebody nobody's talked about, but I think outside of all the quarterbacks out there, he has the best shot to make it as a Heisman Trophy candidate.
And if you watch their games, I mean, you see what they do. They just load the box up. I mean, he's running against 9-man fronts every week, and he's not healthy, so that takes a toll on his body. So he's only going to get better.
Up in the Big Ten, Ohio State travels to Happy Valley to a whiteout. This is probably going to be ESPN's game of the day.
Yeah, the day's there.
It's going to be huge. Urban Meyer's second game.
Second game. They had Tulane last week in a warm-up.
Right. So this game could be the season in the Big Ten. If Ohio State loses, there's a shot that the Big Ten gets left out of the college football playoff. If they win, they kind of have a bit of a cakewalk back to the Big Ten championship in Indianapolis. Ohio State, Penn State. Courtney, who you got?
I'm going Ohio State. I cannot believe I'm saying that, but I'm going Ohio State this week.
Listen, Penn State, I believe they beat them there last year on a blocked field goal maybe, something like that, at Ohio State.
Yeah, it was something weird.
I really like Trace McSorley. He's stepped up ever since Saquon Barkley's left for the draft. They had their scare the first week against Appalachian State, and they've just broke scoreboards every week since. I'm gonna go with the Nittany Lions.
I am also going to go with the Nittany Lions. I think outside the SEC, Penn State's one of the toughest places to play. Yep. I think Ohio State has yet to really meet a real challenge, and so it'll be interesting to see how they react to a real challenge. And if this game gets close late, Penn State knows how to win those football games. You don't know if this Ohio State team does.
And James Franklin, he takes this Ohio State game personally. If you remember getting left out of the playoff after going on that rant in the Big Ten championship game, talking about we deserve to be there and then didn't get in. So he kind of takes this game personally as well.
Last out-of-conference game, we're going to talk about BYU, the Fighting. They've had a miraculous season already with big wins against Wisconsin and Arizona, just kind of tearing it up all over the board. A fun team to watch, a team nobody talks about. This game's going to be surprisingly around 7:30 Central?
Yep,
for game
7:30.
Yep, in Seattle against Washington, who outside of Stanford's one of the Pac-12's only hopes of maybe even making the postseason. They're 9-1 after their opening week loss to Auburn. This is a ranked matchup. Washington's ranked number 11, BYU number 20. How do you guys think this one goes, Sean?
Yeah, I think Washington is probably the best team in the Pac-12. I think they win, but like you said, nobody's talking about BYU. They've got some big wins. They went up to Madison, which is another tough place to play, and they took it to them, shocked them. So I'm going to go with Washington, though. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the underdogs. BYU has been a fun team to watch this year, and I'm really excited to see what they do, not just this year, but if they have a great season this year going forward.
Yep. Seattle's a tough place to play. BYU did win in Madison, but it's very loud up in Seattle, and Washington needs to win this game.
Yep.
I'm going to go with the Huskies. Let's start in the SEC with everybody's favorite red team, the Alabama Crimson Tide, taking on everybody else's other favorite red team, the Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajun. Who you guys have winning this game? Let's do it quick.
We're picking this game.
Yeah, I'm shocked we're picking this game.
You know what to do.
We're all going Bama. We're all going Bama.
When are they going to play someone? Us, November. It's their first ranked opponent, I believe.
Arkansas is in College Station against Texas A&M. Big game for Jimbo Fisher coming off of that Alabama bludgeoning last week.
Yeah.
Who do you guys have winning this one?
I thought they'd play a little better last week at Bama, but Arkansas is awful. I think Jimbo's going to have them ready. I'm still worried about that game for LSU late in the season. Jimbo's going to have them ready. He's a great coach.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with A&M.
I'll agree. A&M all across the board. Tennessee is going to be in Athens facing on the class of the SEC East, the Georgia Bulldogs. Thoughts and players, Tennessee.
Again, why are we picking this game?
I think that game is at like 40 as a spread or 38.
What time is that game?
It's the 2:30 CBS game.
Why?
I don't know, but it's actually the spread's 31. That's insane.
Thank God for these out-of-conference great games.
Yeah.
Some of these SEC matchups are just horrible. Southern Miss visiting Auburn on the Plains. We're all going Auburn, right?
Yeah, they got the big win against Arkansas last week. Not saying much, but
slow news week.
Way to rebound. So
Tennessee State at Auburn, not Auburn, at Vanderbilt.
Oh, I'm gonna go with Vandy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Vandy.
Can't say I've watched a lot of Tennessee State football this year, so
that's disappointing.
I know. I'll be better.
You're gonna go Vandy. All right, an actual game. The Florida Gators, everybody's favorite boot material, is facing up in Stark Vegas the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Cowbells.
This is the Dan Mullen.
The Dan Mullen Bowl. Absolutely.
This is it. The tribute video is probably going to be fired up. The crowd's going to be fired up. I think Mississippi State wins, but I think Mullen's going to have them ready. But, yeah, the Dan Mullen Bowl.
Yeah, I had Florida going into the show, but the more I think about it, I really think State is riled up coming off that loss to Kentucky.
We're going to get to that.
But, yeah, I'm going State.
Okay.
Make my godfather proud.
I'm going to go Florida. I just think that Dan Mullen needs his marquee win, and this might be it for the season. I think this is a big statement game, and I think everybody
drummed Tennessee last week.
Absolutely. And Kentucky showed a little bit that Mississippi State might have been a little overtouted coming into the season. We'll see if Joe Moorhead needs another year. South Carolina is visiting Kentucky up in Lexington. Are they ranked?
The number 17 University of Kentucky Wildcats.
Look at that.
I'm telling you, the atmosphere in Commonwealth Stadium last week was palpable. It was insane. We waited like 45 minutes for Benny Snell to come out. Benny Snell is so excited. The state of Kentucky is so excited. We're calling him an early Heisman pick.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going Cats.
I'm all in on Benny Snell.
We love Benny Snell.
After this week, and then I watched last week. You got to tell me why the spread's only one. It was South Carolina was favored.
They were favored, and I was furious.
That place is going to be rocking, man. I don't think there's no letdown here. Kentucky wins. They've got Georgia coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're getting ready, but they're not looking ahead.
I don't jump on bandwagons often, but I'll jump on this one. I think Kentucky wins.
Only for football season.
It's going to be a good game, though. Not dominating fashion. South Carolina is fighting for their season, and they're still a pretty good football team. And then finally, across the street in Death Valley, this game's been played 106 times before. The spread, as of right now, is LSU by 10, which really only means a touchdown because you put in 3 points to the home field advantage. Nobody in this matchup likes each other. It's hard hitting, it's violent, it's furious, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
I'm hoping for a fight.
LSU.
We love a good
Ole Miss,
fight.
LSU. We'll see what happens. Ole Miss, LSU. You guys are going to give me who wins, and you can give me some scores. Courtney, I'm going to start with you.
I'm definitely going LSU. I think we're just on the up and up this year. This is the LSU football I came to this school to see. 38-24.
Yeah, look, 8 o'clock kickoff. This place is going to be rocking. Prayers sent to everybody tailgating tomorrow.
I saw a tweet that said the two teams who need an extra hour of tailgating are getting it.
Yeah. Look, this place is going to be rocking. You said earlier that, we kind of overlooked this. Ed Orgeron does it. He can say what he wants. He does not overlook this Ole Miss game. No. He's got this one circled every year. They want to win this big. He'll have them ready. I think LSU runs away with this. I'm going to go 38. I'll go 40. I'll go 42-24.
Wow. 42-24. I think it's a close game, and I think LSU pulls away because that Ole Miss defense is just going to be really, really gassed. But it's going to be close in that first half. Don't be surprised if it's tied or by one score going into halftime. I think it's going to be LSU 30-14, though.
Nice.
Yep. Ole Miss giving up 500 yards a game. So, yeah, they better be able to score.
Yeah, but it will be a big one. We hope we'll see you guys there. Don't forget, Out of Bounds will be coming at you to talk about that game Sunday night at 6 o'clock on 91.1 KLSU. We also have the Ball on the Bayou podcast that'll be up there, and our sports updates every day to keep you guys informed. Besides that, yeah, y'all just have fun. Be careful. Again, thoughts and prayers.
Yep.
We don't need that extra 2 hours.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Absolutely. Remember, after every drink some water.
Drink water, 2 waters.
That's right. Drink some water from your folks here at KLSU Sports. For Sean Larken and Courtney Brewer, I'm Nick Halaby. Y'all have a good one.
Go Tigers.
Bye, Mom.
Go Tigers.